Hey everybody, I'm Steve.
And Tommy.
And together, we're
Smart Home Rigs.
This week we're going to talk to you about the new Apple TV 4K 2022 edition. How does it differ from last year's second edition or the first edition? Watch this and we'll get right into it. The third generation Apple TV 4K. It takes a few steps forward and a few steps back. There are two different models. This time the 64 gig is missing the gigabit Ethernet, comes with Wi-Fi only, and is missing thread. You have to get the 128 gig to have those same features that you had in last year's model. So let's get into it and see what it's all about. So a lot of people ask, why would I want to spend $129 or $149 on an Apple TV rather than saving $100 and getting a Fire Stick or a Roku? And my answer is, could you put a price on your privacy? Because you just did. They don't even make any apologies for it. It's right up front and center when you sign to the agreement. It says everything you stream on your devices, whether it be a Fire Stick or whether it be a Roku device, is all going through their server, and they're going to capture all that information. They're going to save it, they're going to categorize it, and they're going to sell it to, of course, marketing people and salespeople to try and figure out ways that they can sell services to you.
They're gonna do what?
I know. They're going to sell your stuff. And yes, there are ways to opt out of it, but a lot of people don't know where those settings are. On the Fire Stick, it makes it super easy. On the Roku, not so much. But that's the great thing about Apple. Apple keeps it all local in your network, so privacy is top of mind. That's the number one reason why you would want to do that. Number two reason is because they're freaking amazing. They have a fast, powerful processor. They have a lot of RAM in them, and they stream like nobody's business. So when you're watching Netflix or you're watching any of your other streaming services, Hulu, HBO, whatever they might be, they're going to be a lot snappier on the Apple TV than they ever would be on a streaming device. But the thing that made Apple king of the mountain is the one thing that they've turned their back on. And that is making sure you had everything in one box that future-proof you. All the Apple TVs, all the way back to the very first HD one, they all have one thing in common. They have a network cable, HDMI, and they're purpose-built to be future-proof. Now suddenly you have to pay more to get the bigger one just so you can have that same capabilities that you've always had all along. So if you've already got the Apple TV second generation, the one that just came out a year and a half ago, there's no reason to upgrade. There's not really a lot going on here unless you have a Samsung TV and you need that HDR 10 plus. It's got that, but if you don't have a Samsung TV, that's not a benefit. It has more space. Are you running out of space on your 64 gig? I'm not, so that's not a huge benefit. But I'm going to pay that $20 extra because I want the network capabilities that has that gigabit network port in it so that you can plug it into your network and get the full speeds out of whatever your internal network is. And secondly, the thread. If you buy that little Wi-Fi one and you want to save yourself $20, not only do you lose the Ethernet capabilities, but you don't have thread capabilities. And what has thread? I don't know. Do you have any Eve plugs or sensors? Do you have any Nanoleaf bulbs? Because they all use thread. And every one of the HomePod minis all have thread capabilities built into them. Last year's Apple TV had thread capabilities built into it. So if you're looking for one that can have Ethernet and thread, and you don't have a Samsung TV, last year's model, super on sale right now. Even cheaper than the smaller one. So that's why I would go with last year's model. If you're on a first gen, that's an upgrade for you. If you're on an HD, that's an upgrade for you. If you've got last year's model, that's not an upgrade for you. At least not enough for me. You could just want the new and hotness. I just wanted the new and hotness. But when I look at them side by side, it's smaller, it's lighter, it feels chintzy because it's lighter. That's the one thing about all the other Apple TVs. They had some weight to them, solidly built. The one good thing, if I'm going to give it a pro, the one good thing that I would say about it, it's going to be great for the gamers, but I don't game on my Apple TV. I have an actual gaming system for that. The non-fan cooling. It's fanless. So when you look at the old HDs that had the solid bottom here, when you look at a 4K one, you notice a little vent on the back there where air circulates. This 4K model is the very first one that doesn't have a fan. It goes back to that same kind of streamline because it's smaller, it's lighter, it runs cooler, so it doesn't need that. That's a pro. So to recap, if you've already got one from last year, you're good. You don't need to upgrade unless you have a Samsung TV. If you have a Samsung TV, I highly recommend you get it because you're going to need it for the HDR 10 plus. But for anybody else that already uses the Dolby, you're good. But the one thing every Apple TV had in common before was they all said Apple TV. Now they've removed the TV from the Apple TV. Is it because of the app? Who knows? Maybe it's because they want it to look like a Mac Mini. But now the new ones just have the little Apple on them. I don't know if that's a plus. That seems like a marketing gimmick to me. So it's lighter, has an Apple on it. If you buy the Wi-Fi version, you've screwed yourself out of thread capabilities, and you don't have an Ethernet, so you better hope you have a good Wi-Fi. But if you get the 128 gig one, you get all the same capabilities that they gave you in last year's model and every model that they've had before. And one other plus is the new remote looks just like the old remote, but instead of Lightning, now it's USB-C. So you've got a USB-C that you can use to charge this. So if you have a phone that uses USB-C or any other device that have USB-C, you can use that. Downside is they don't give you one in the box because they're hoping that you have one. But now it's compatible with the EU and their laws saying that all plugged-in devices that recharge have to have a USB-C. But regardless of which remote you have, whether it's the Lightning or whether it's the new USB-C, any of them are better than this original one. This thing just felt cheap in your hand. It was, I mean, it did everything, but it was so thin and so light and made out of glass that if you dropped it, you broke it. You had to have some sort of a case, one with a long tail so you didn't lose it in your couch. It was just tiny and it felt like a toy.
Hey, Dad, since you have a third generation 4K, does that mean I get the first generation for my room?
Well, son, it does. And you don't have to deal with this remote control because I got you one of the new remote controls in green. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.
And ding that bell.
If you ding the bell, it'll let you know when we post new content. Until next time, my name has been Steve.
And Tommy.
And you guys have been great.
Smart Home Rigs,
helping your smart home tech work for you. Get the wiggles out.
Wiggle take.
The empathetic response. So a lot. What?
I was gonna try to be funny.
Were you? What were you gonna try to do to be funny?
I was gonna say, do you speak yawn?
Do I speak yawn? I think everybody speaks yawn.
You're delirious. Go home and get some sleep.
What are you doing? You did it to yourself, didn't you?
Just wait. Just wait.
It's also a lot smaller, so it's literally physically smaller, back to front, top to bottom, and thinner. So it's going to look a lot smaller.
Houston, we have a problem.
I'm saying small too many times, so I'm going to cut this out.
With the fashion sense.
Are you not good?
And again, I am all about you. Any of the hats that I have down there,
I'm
you
more
can wear
handsome.
them.
I'm more handsome than this one.
You think you're more handsome than me? I would agree.
Just so you know, handsome you got came from this one.